Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Always flattering to see a standing room only crowd. Thank you very much. My name's Tom Ciavarella. I'm Manager of Publisher Relations for Thomson Reuters. And in that role, one of the big things that I'm doing is explaining a lot of the technical processes about how Thomson Reuters chooses content to go inside of the Web of Science, and that's going to be the example I'm going to use today. And just about processes in general. So the publisher relations team is really the hinge between what happens inside of Thomson Reuters and what the outside world needs to know about their content and the products. So I'm going to break this down into 3 topics. I'm going to talk a little bit about APIs and why we use them specifically. I'm going to talk about 3 categories of APIs that Thomson is using right now. And as I said, I'm going to do all of this through the context of the Web of Science. And I'm sure many of you know about Web of Science already, but just as a refresher or as an introduction, it's a lot of content. It's over 12,000 journals, over 12,000 conference proceedings, over 61,000 books, 7 languages. We have a full-time editorial staff that vets all of the content that comes through. This is a curated, selected, high-quality collection of content. And that's only 10 to 12% of what the world would like us to index. We're very selective in what we allow inside of the Web of Science. And even with that, it's an enormous amount of content. So how do you make better use out of that? Well, we do it with APIs. We use APIs to help our customers succeed. Now, I know that sounds like a marketing slogan, and I think we have used it as a marketing slogan in the past, but it's also true. APIs are going to save you time. It's going to save you time searching for what you really need to find. Ultimately, that means it's going to save you money. If you are using Web of Science, if your institution has a subscription to Web of Science, you already have access to a lot of these APIs, and a lot of people aren't using them, either because they haven't been introduced to them well, or they just don't know how, or they don't know who to ask. But job 1 for us in making APIs and making them available is to help you do what it is you need to do. We also use APIs to innovate. Thomson Reuters is a huge company. It's multinational. It has 4 major divisions. It has 55,000 employees. And we cannot program, code, and build products fast enough. Even with all of that manpower, even with all of that intellectual power, we can't get products out to market the way that consumers want. So by making a software development kit available, by making APIs available, customers, others are going to be able to use this content in ways that maybe we haven't thought of yet, or maybe we have it on a laundry list of products that we would like to build. And we're having a hard time ourselves trying to figure out which one we should do first. But when the APIs are used, we can see how the data is being used. Ale had made the point that for Scopus, only about 50% of the users are using the APIs. We're seeing something along those lines inside of the Web of Science, but we really want more people using them. And we also do it to compete. The more ways Thomson Reuters can find to get customers and institutions and individuals using our content, the more we can do that, the better it is. It drives traffic to other sites. It reinforces our brand. It keeps you happy with what you have. Web of Science is not a cheap purchase. We know that institutional budgets, especially for libraries, are always being looked at and being cut and being looked at and being cut again, and we want to show you the value that you're getting out of the product. So APIs can really do that. And honestly, if we don't offer these APIs, if we don't give you tools to succeed, if we don't help you learn and grow, somebody else is going to, and we'd rather keep you using the Web of Science. So I mentioned that we were going to talk about 3 kinds of APIs, and one of them is from a requester to Thomson Reuters. And I'm specifically talking here about what we call Web of Science web services. On our website, and there's a screenshot up there, the phrases APIs and web services are used interchangeably. Generally, web services are a collection of APIs. And what you're seeing on screen is 3 products, Web of Science, Researcher ID, and EndNote, for which we supply APIs. We have a developer portal, developers.thomsonreuters.com. You can sign up if you're interested in doing some development. You can get information on our software development kit, or SDK, and you can learn more about the APIs that we use. I went to our developers, I went to our sales staff, and I said, please give me the clearest demonstration of an API that you can. And they said this: here's what most people do. Here's an API. Let's see that again. This is what most of us are doing. You go to Web of Science, you put in a search, it calls to our database, it pulls up that information, you're seeing it through the Web of Science, you're seeing it through that website. APIs are 2 computers talking to each other. And you can be doing this from your own institution. You cut out the agent. And if you're a publisher, that's a good thing to cut out agents in general. I've worked as an agent, I'm allowed to make that joke. This is, in essence, how it happens. It really is just a request from one computer to another. It's very straightforward. The second kind of API we use is between a partner organization and Thomson Reuters. So not generally a customer, but really 2 independent organizations. This is a screenshot from a Thomson product called Researcher ID. Researcher ID tries to take the ambiguity out of the publishing process. It assigns a unique ID. And you're seeing with those 3 arrows on screen 3 ways that Researcher ID and ORCID integrate. So you can move over a list of the publications. You can also send information to ORCID, or you can get data from ORCID and bring it in to Researcher ID. So as you can see in the example, almost everything about my ID on Researcher ID and ORCID is the same, except for the short description that has my title. And so I've just put a check mark next to that, and when I hit send to ORCID, it's going to update all of my content. That is another example of an API that we use. And that's not our API, that's ORCID's API. ORCID opens up their API to Thomson and to Elsevier and to others. And what's on screen here is two types they have. They have a public one that anybody can use. They have a member one, which gives you slightly more benefits. There's a third type that's not up here, which is a trusted partner API. And that's what Thomson Reuters is using, and I'm sure that's what Elsevier is using too. It's just giving a level of data and detail that's not always available elsewhere. And if you're interested in seeing more about that, I do have the URL for ORCID up there. Third kind of API that we use is between Thomson Reuters products. This is not something that you as a customer or a consumer or a researcher might even think about, but it is something that we do. And the example on screen here gives a little bit of the technical jargon. But in essence, you're starting an EndNote, and you're typing a query into EndNote that's going to grab data from the Web of Science. And that is the path that flows. So it does a little bit of conversion into XML, and then it brings it into EndNote for you. This is happening behind the scenes. You're probably not even seeing a lot of this happening. You're not thinking about it happening. And to us, that's precisely the point. We want the Thomson Reuters experience, we want the Web of Science experience to be as seamless as possible. We want you to use one product and be able to hop into another product and not even know that you're hopping around, to not even feel like you've had to make an effort to go from one platform onto another, one website onto another. This is our goal, and we're doing a lot with it, and we would like to do a lot more with it if we can. I know that was a brief overview, but that is in essence what we're doing with our APIs. I know, Gordon, you had said we were going to save some questions until the end, but okay. If
You've done it. You brought us back on track. So go ahead.
I do my best.
You've done well. Actually, a couple of questions. So I'll ask one, just really
Please.
quickly. So you did put up the competition. That
Yes.
We haven't seen the coordinators at all. But I indicated that that could be one of the big challenges.
Mm-hmm.
So as a large organization, like Elsevier, like Thompson, compete, there almost has to be recusing of interests when you're trying to create a API that's beneficial to the community.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you put hooks in it that make it only good for Thompson,
Right.
it may not be good for others.
Right.
So how do you reconcile? You have a team that, like, here's the impartial group that makes decisions like that. You have a steering committee. How do you deal with that?
We do have a team, but what happens is because Thompson is so big, we have 4 major divisions. We do a lot of work in the legal area, the financial and risk area. We sell a bunch of products there, and they all have their own APIs too, and they're competing against others. So we do have a steering committee inside of Thompson that thinks about, okay, how many products do we have? What kind of APIs do we have? Are they worth it? You know, not everything needs an API, which is something that Ali had alluded to. You know, it doesn't have to be a part of what you do. So we can't throw our dollars everywhere. And we are seeing a lot of good return in APIs from the Web of Science and from the financial products. What's going to be done next, or what's going to be done to improve it? Hard to say, because I've never met anybody who's happy with their website. Anyone who ever shows me their website has said, okay, well, don't pay attention to that. That's going to change. And that's happening at Thompson, too. And when that happens, the APIs change, too. What the steering committee, what hires up are going to do about APIs, I'll be curious to see myself. But in the meantime, we're very happy with what the Web of Science ones are doing for us.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, pose a question.
Certainly.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering about it. It seems like your API environment is sort of open for developers to come and try and design something. But do I have to purchase your content, or through an API, is that sort of like free access to your content?
That's a good question. So if you are a subscriber to the Web of Science and other products, these web services are built into that price. So you're going to use the APIs. For a developer, we are asking you to register. So when you go to the website at Thomson Reuters, developers.thomsonreuters.com, we are going to ask, who are you? Because we would like to get in touch with you and see how you're going to use the content. But we're not like Apple, for instance, where, you know, they charge a $99 fee, you know, to be a developer, and it gives you access to certain things. So right now, we would like to know who you are, because we do want to help you innovate. We want to see the kind of things that you're interested in and the kind of things that you might build. But right now, it's a pretty casual environment. Certainly. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I think in your answer to Gordon's question, you hit the second edge of this double-edged sword, the APIs, where, yes, by presenting an API, you're giving an opportunity for partners to integrate more closely in what you're offering. But there is this question of versioning and change. You mentioned, well, the APIs will change, but you have a lot of customers who are dependent on you.
Right.
How is that managed? I think I saw in the Elsevier presentation something on the query string that was indicating a version of the API.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because that's an issue of scale. You know, right now, you know, we know enough of the people using the APIs and how they're using them, where if problems like that came up, we can almost provide concierge service. Like, we can really talk you through it, walk you through. You would get on the phone with me or somebody else, and we'd be able to lead you to it. As we scale up, as we get more people using the APIs, one of the things we have to work on is how do we How do we manage that? How do we get in touch with you to let you know what we're doing? How do we get feedback from you to say, maybe you shouldn't do this? We don't want to work in a vacuum. We want to work with you. And it's really incumbent on us to know who's using the APIs and how before we go and change something. It's not like a website in that when we redesign our website, we as humans are going to adapt. That'll be fine. So maybe the link was here and now it's over there. Okay. APIs don't adapt. APIs are just going to break. And we need to be more proactive about that. That's going to actually be an interesting outgrowth of publisher relations, because one of the things we try to be proactive about now is, for instance, how we change criteria for the Web of Science. We are going to allow in certain things, we aren't going to allow in certain things. We have a process for letting people know about that. We need to build a process that lets people know about the APIs changing and what that's really going to mean.
Well, one of the paths isn't maintaining multiple versions, actually having a version of the system where your partners have a choice.
That's a good question. I don't know how much choice we're going to make available. That's something that we still have to work on. I will fully admit that a lot of this is brand new, not so much to Thomson Reuters, but into communicating it to our partners. And so we're going to be faced with a lot of these questions, and we need to come up with some very good answers.
Thank you.
Thank you.